Throwdown Nation. We are live with episode 66 of the Throwdown with Matt. It is a Wednesday. We are streaming on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. And tonight we are throwing down with a Georgia-based wrestler, Mr. Chris Del Rey. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Good. How about you? How you feeling?
Man, aside from the little technological scare that we had before going live tonight, man, I'm doing great. I'm glad we were able to conquer the gremlins and actually make this happen.
Yes. Now we just gotta survive the cold that's coming up.
Yeah, it's last I heard, it looks like we may get some, actually, for Georgia at least, halfway decent snowfall. We'll see.
Yeah, halfway decent, but it's Georgia. It changes its mind.
Absolutely. But for those of you that are watching this live, if you have any questions or comments, throw them in the chat, and all questions and comments will be read and answered as we go during kind of an ongoing viewer Q&A session. So we'll go ahead and start with the first and most obvious question, Chris, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
So December of this previous year was 4 years in total. I started training late 2020, had my first match at the very end of 2020, and I've been wrestling since then. I've wrestled from Athens, and the last couple years kind of ventured off into the Carolinas, southern area of Georgia, and more frequently in Atlanta with Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. That's where I've mostly been at more than anything as of late.
Gotcha. So who actually trained you?
Jamie Holmes, he's from Statham, lives in Statham, from Stone Mountain, Georgia. He trained me, trained others like Hunter James, trained Chop Top a little bit. If you know Chop Top, Haas Michaels is. He trained a lot of those guys. He did a little bit with CB Suave. He trained me. I still go over there almost every week, do some training, and also help with other trainees that he has that comes through. I kind of help him out with those as well. So that's who trained me. Every now and then, Murder One, I do some training with him on show days for Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment as well. He also kind of helps train me time to time too as well.
Gotcha. So in the early portions of your training, when you were first getting started as a trainee, what was the most challenging part of the early days? What would you say was the hardest part of wrestling to catch on to?
I'm able to remember to sell moves. That was my hardest part. Is trying to remember to sell a certain move or sell a body part. If a body part's being worked on, that was my hardest thing.
Gotcha. So let me see here. So, and again, this is sort of hearkening back to your early days of your training. What would you say was the most valuable lesson you learned early on? If you were working with a brand new trainee, is there something you learned very early that you would pass along?
So, same thing a little bit. Um, to this day, I still catch myself doing too much. And I've been told countless times, and I tell other people now, less is more. We got a lot of new trainees that come in and want to do their first match. They want to do all their big moves in their first match. And then now we try to tell them the less you do, the more it is. Because it took me a while. There was moments for my first couple of matches, I was trying to do every big move that I knew. And then I had nothing left when the match was nowhere near done. So the less is more. And try to just remember that if you're a babyface, work the crowd. even as a heel, work the crowd, remember what your roles are into those matches. So that's something I try to tell younger guys that's even starting or just beginning to train. Less is more. Remember your role as a heel or a baby face.
Gotcha.
So,
So speed round, and this guy
all
you
right.
may know him potentially by two different names, uh,
All right.
Dexter Loomis or Sam Shaw.
All right. I'll say a great adapter. Whatever they throw at him, he makes it work. Any kind of character, the stalker, the stuff with the white six,
Mm-hmm.
he adapts great and he makes it work.
Yeah, and
So,
and somebody that has that ability to adapt to any gimmick or persona that's thrown at him is valuable beyond measure.
yes, it works. It keeps money going into your pocket,
Yep.
to be honest. In the business, where some guys are very limited in what they could do, he he's able to keep on paying his bills, continue what he's doing. Even if he's not working a lot of matches, he's able to do some backstage segments with certain things with whatever he's thrown at. So I say a great adapter.
Absolutely. So I'm presuming that you've been a fan of this stuff most if not pretty much all of your life. Is that pretty accurate?
Pretty much all my life.
Um,
Pretty much all my life. I grew up more in the. I was born in the late '90s, going into the 2000s. I'm more of an attitude, ruthless aggression
mhm.
fan. Um, if you watch my matches, I'm more of a Dynamite Kid, Benoit Guerrero, the original cruiserweight guys. I try to work my kind of style into that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that's who it kind of take place after.
So what is your earliest wrestling related memory?
Let's see. There's a lot. There's a lot. I just think really just being able to watch pay per views as a kid. That was like WrestleMania was a big
Mhm.
thing. That was like the Super Bowl of wrestling. So as a kid, just that we was only allowed like one pay per view a year, and luckily WrestleMania was the pay per view. So every now and then, as a kid growing up, and I had older siblings that gave me a bunch of crap for wrestling being fake. Uh, Sitting there and watching wrestling as a kid, because wrestling works in so many mysterious ways. It could get rid of everything negative around you.
Mhm.
So as a kid, watching wrestling and pay per views and stuff like that with your family was nice. That's like my earliest as I could think of. And then I have a lot more now as I have kids, taking them to wrestling shows and seeing their reactions from when they think daddy's hurt or when they know when daddy wins. And luckily, they're smart enough to know the business. They know when daddy's a good guy or a bad
Right.
guy. They will even boo me and spit at me too when I'm a bad guy, which is smart because I still have family that comes. Even if I'm a bad guy, they'll cheer for me. They'll say, "You're not supposed to cheer for me."
That's awesome.
So it's nice, especially with kids. I love taking my kids. They get to meet some people I grew up watching on TV, and they get to have fun doing the stuff that I grew up watching. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. You know, I've been a fan of this stuff, varying levels of fandom during different points of my life, but I basically got started as a kid in Florida around age 11, and I
yeah,
just turned 55. So I mean, I've been following the business for 40 plus years, and growing up in the territory days, and then seeing everything that has transpired since then. Um, it's it's been a really incredible ride,
a
and
lot. It's big.
yeah,
It's a big change.
and right now I've got to say, right now is actually one of the most exciting times to be a fan because there's just so much cool stuff happening.
I think, especially again with the '90s, you had WCW, ECW, WWF, and now you have New Japan, MLW, AEW, and then you got some of the bigger indie promotions like
Mm-hmm.
GCW. If you're not a traditional fan of wrestling, you don't have to watch WWE. You can go to AEW or anywhere else because every show is they have their own
Yep.
differences. WWE is more character entertainment. AEW's wrestling, and then you got GCW that's very hardcore, a little brutal. Everything's different, but covers everything for every little fan. Then you got those big fans that will just watch it all because they love it. And I kind of cover a little bit of everything every now and then as much as I can.
Gotcha. So, was there a particular point in your life where you knew you wanted to try to make a go of this?
So I started after we had our second son. Well, we was pregnant with my second son. I'm a high school dropout. Me and my wife had a pregnancy scare in my 12th grade year. Got a job, and then find out no baby or anything. Then we had our oldest daughter, and I started talking about it. Started talking to Jamie Holmes about training, but I just never jumped on the ball for it. And then we got found out I was pregnant with my oldest son that's 4 now, and I jumped the ball with it because I was like, I don't want my kids to see that I gave up on something I loved and wanted to do because I had kids. Like, don't let anything stop you from doing what you want to do. So it was more of like motivate myself, but also use it to let my kids know don't let anything stop you from chasing your dreams. So,
That's awesome, dude. And being a dad myself, I completely get where you're coming from. I mean,
yeah.
I've got a 15-year-old son who's a sophomore in high school,
Yeah.
and it sounds like yours are younger. But
Yes.
let me tell you this much, man. Don't blink, because the time just
Uh,
flies.
it does go by fast. I go on my Facebook memories and I'll see 2021, I think. I wrestled Bushwhacker Luke, and I saw a picture where Bushwhacker was with my kids. I only had two at the time frame. I got three biological, and then we took custody of our 12-year-old niece, but only had the two at the time frame. And you just see how little they are, and then you see them now. I was like, man, it went by so fast. Like this journey goes by fast, and it's harder on me being on the road as much as I am on the weekends because I'm on the road for about 6 to 5 weeks and maybe have 2 weeks while I'm home. So I work my shoot job, and then I
Gotcha.
have like two every weekend. I'm on the road for a show, and then I got 2 weeks I'm home, and I somewhat look forward to those more, and I look forward to some show days, just be home with the kids and just hang out.
Absolutely. So, aside from wrestling and the family stuff, being a dad, all that, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
I'm a big fitness guy. I spend a lot of time in the gym. I'm very obsessed with how the body works. I figure out, just see how the body can grow. You can shrink it and everything like that. So I spend a lot of time in the gym, do a lot of researching how the body works, certain body groups and stuff like that. But I'm also a bit of a nerd. But I'm a retro nerd. I like playing old Nintendos, old Nintendo 64s, and like the old Sega Genesis. I like to do that, and my kids do it with me too as well. I'm a little bit of a retro gamer myself, so those are my hobbies. I go home from
Nothing
work,
wrong with
go to the
that.
gym, come home. I might blow on a cartridge of a Mario Kart game and start playing on a game, and just relax after that.
Gotcha. Speed round. Buddy Matthews.
Great wrestler, just very underused.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate. The whole House of Black faction had
It,
such potential, and
it had a
I feel
lot.
like I feel like unfortunately they really didn't do the amazing things with that faction that they could have.
No, no, I feel like they could have done a lot better. And they started building up and then it just plateaued.
Yeah,
But anytime Buddy Matthews or Pack or Aleister Black or Malachi Black are in that ring.
Oh, it's yeah.
It's just entertaining.
Oh, for
And it's
sure.
brutal sometimes. They're stiff.
Yeah,
So props to them, but Buddy Matthews, I feel like he's not used enough. Like I don't know if it's just he don't show a lot of personality, or it's just I don't know.
yeah.
But great wrestler. He keeps up with anybody and
Oh, for
everybody.
sure,
Just not used
for
enough.
sure.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit beforehand, and we're definitely geographically compatible, so to speak. So, are
Yeah.
you originally from Winder, or
Yes, I was born and raised in Winder. So I've been here my whole entire life. Besides, I did move to Buford for about a year and a half, and then me and my wife moved back to Winder. I try not to make me sound like a little bit of a sissy, but I did get a little homesick.
gotcha, gotcha?
So,
I get it, man.
so slowly convinced her to move back over towards this way. But it was
Gotcha,
hard.
gotcha. And I can definitely tell by some of the things I've seen on your social media that Winder means a lot to you. I saw that you participated in the event.
The
Yeah,
battle
yeah,
for
yeah.
Barrow.
The thing for
So
Appalachia.
I helped put that together because my kids, we live in Barry County. My kids' schools got locked up, had a lockdown, and I was in panic mode. I'm at my shoot job, and about 2 3 hours after everything died down with the Appalachia stuff, I called Matt Westlake. He owns a comic book store in Commerce, Georgia, called Nerd U Comics, and he has a wrestling promotion called Nerd U. And I pushed him. I was like, "How would you feel about doing a benefit show to help raise money up for families that was struck by the tragedies of September 4th?" And he was like, I'm down for it if you can find talent." And I went to Appalachia my freshman year, and then I went to Winder Barrow for the rest. And Hunter James went to Appalachia and graduated from Appalachia, and they canceled the Battle of Barrow football game. So I was like, we'll tease the Battle of Barrow between me and Hunter James. We train together. We have very similar styles in how we work. And so we built it on Hunter being the main character of the show. And that was a headache, to be honest with you, because as soon as the flyer got posted, I had talent from Carolinas, Tennessee hitting me up wanting a spot. So from just a little thing, it went to a bigger deal where we had to add more people, add more matches, and but it was awesome. The turnout was great. It was fun. If I had opportunity, I would do another one. It was a fun thing to do.
Gotcha. My my son got back from an event early, and the front door was locked, so I had to go upstairs and let him in. But man, you know how it is being a dad.
Yes, yes. Sometimes they'll wake me up at 4 o'clock in the morning saying that they're scared.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Zach doesn't really do that anymore because, like I said, he's 15 now. but I
They
remember
shouldn't be
those
doing that
days.
anymore.
Yeah. So they say that the best wrestling personas are essentially yourself turned up to 11. Tell
Yes.
me a bit about in-ring Chris Del Rey and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
So, as a heel, I have a natural smart mouth. I'm a smart aleck, but I think I got it from my father. I crank it up a little bit, and I'm great at little comebacks, talking a little trash and everything like that. Um, Wrestling style, I slow down. I'm more of a high flyer most of the time. I slow things down, really ground based. As a baby face, I'm easy to talk to, get along with most of the time, as long as you don't do anything to provoke me. But as a baby face, I don't want to say it's not me, but it's not me. Like it's kind of weird. I feel more natural as a heel. It's kind of weird. But my first couple years, I was a baby face, and then these last 2 years, I mostly work heel. What if only work baby face if it's needed? So it's I don't know how to do like put together because I'm not naturally a bad guy, but I do better as a heel. It's kind of weird.
Gotcha. So, tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it? Your thoughts coming out of it? All that good stuff.
So my very first match happened December of 2020 at Southern Violence and Wrestling. I was going against somebody that Jamie Holmes also trained. He was known as the Machine, and we kind of rehearsed a match for almost 3 weeks and had it down pat all the way up until show day. We get to show day, and about 5 minutes before our match started, they threw in a third person and made it a triple threat. So I was cool and collective, wasn't really nervous, a little nervous, but not too nervous. And then I kind of slowly went into panic mode because they threw in somebody last minute. So we was trying to figure out how to make things work. And it was almost a bit of a squash match anyway because they were building up the machine character to be an unstoppable monster kind of. But it threw a curveball at me. But now because of that, I'm able to handle a curveball that's thrown at me. So
Well, that's
it was a learning lesson for sure.
oh, for sure, for sure. Speed round. Frankie
All right.
Kazarian.
Underrated.
Yeah,
I feel like he was overlooked a lot with TNA, not just from AJ Styles or Christopher Daniels or Alex Shelley and all those guys, but very underrated, but great at continuing and trying to carry himself and try to make a name for himself or still make a name for himself with the slightest gimmick change,
gotcha,
but very underrated.
gotcha. So, we've heard about your first match. Now, tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
Let's see. I have a few. If you know who Luca Daniels is,
The-
he's one of my favorite opponents.
okay,
Um, we've worked each other, baby, Hill versus vice versa. My two favorite matches, I'll say two favorite matches, was with him, and they're about 2 weeks apart. One was in Royston of 2022, and then 2 weeks later, we was in Gainesville, Georgia, doing another match about you know, but there was both and the roles was reversed, but they were both two of my favorite matches I've had, and it was with Luca Daniels. Um, I think I've worked him probably more than anybody in the state of Georgia. Um,
gotcha.
since we both started about the same time frame, so we've worked each other a lot. Got a good connection how we do things.
When you've got somebody like that that you've got good chemistry and a good connection with, that can really lead to some beautiful performances.
Yes.
So,
Luckily, when you get with people like that, there's not a lot of planning. It's just you throw out ideas, and if those ideas work, they work. But luckily, planner, I hate that, but it's because my memory is not the best. But with working with guys like Luca and Jamie Holmes as another one, and like Chop Top, I've worked with those guys so much and even trained with them some. I don't have to plan, but it's just a natural feeling once we get in the ring. The bell rings. It's just nonstop movement, and we tell a story, and it's just beautiful because we know our next move and know what whose moves are what, and know how to reverse them and stuff like that. So that's the best part of it.
absolutely. So, what is the longest you have ever driven to get to a match?
Little over 3 hours, almost 4 hours. going into North Carolina and going into Swainsboro, Georgia. Those are my
Gotcha.
farthest drives. So yeah, those are my farthest drives. My closest drives were always in Athens.
Yeah,
And well, technically over here by my house for the Winder show, but usually Athens or Commerce are my closest drives.
gotcha. So, and I know that that you all have them, but what is your biggest in-ring pet peeve?
Man, let's see. My in-ring pet peeve. I guess I'll say either not calling stuff to me if it's not been called in the back, or just not listening to the ref, because the ref sometimes have a headset and tell you what to do and tell you when to take it home. There's some guys I worked with that will try to drag the match out longer than what the ref has already told them that we need to take it home. Those have been my pet peeves, to
Gotcha.
try to keep up with the time and try to make sure you call stuff so people don't get hurt.
Absolutely. So, that's actually a perfect segue to the next question. And that is, knowing that there are two major ways of preparing for a match, either working it out with your opponent in the back or calling it in the ring, or to some extent doing a little bit of a hybrid of both. Do you have a preference? Would you rather work it out in the back or would you rather call it in the ring?
So with people I don't know, I will call almost start to finish. And if they're kind of new, Christian Taylor could vouch for me. I will call certain. I'm a hybrid kind of guy more. I will call certain spots, but I'm more of less call it in a ring. I like to feel the crowd, but I also don't like planning things start to finish, just in case if the crowd don't feel it, or if somebody gets hurt and you are in a dead spot, don't know how to get to another spot or get to the finish. So I'm more of like, let's plan these key elements. If we get there, we get there, but let's just call it in the ring, feel the crowd. I'm more of that kind of guy. I worked with a lot of old school guys, and that's how a lot of the old school guys kind of work.
Gotcha. Speed round. Dominic Dijakovic.
I'll say underused. His indie stuff when he's on the indie scene, he's everywhere, and he's put in a lot of work. I feel like he could have been used better, but they put him that retribution stuff, and I think that hurt him.
I
Was
do
very
too.
underused in WWE. But his indie stuff right now, he's killing it and crushing it everywhere. So hopefully
Oh yeah.
Paul Levesque catches on, and hope he tends to do that. He did carrying cross in him, so hopefully he does.
Yeah. That's my hope as well because he Dijak really seems to have a real mind for the business.
Yes.
And I think one of the bigger companies needs to really jump on him and listen to his input and strap a rocket to that guy
Yeah.
and push him to the
I,
moon.
I feel
I
like he
mean,
would. If you send him to New Japan, I feel like he would flourish in New Japan. In New Japan, he will be a rock star over there. He
hmm
fits the mold over there with the strong style, very stiff, more realistic with everything that he's been doing, especially with the indie stuff that he's been doing. So hopefully either Triple H picks him back up or he makes it somewhere with New Japan or AEW.
agreed. So if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
I'd rather be great in the ring.
Okay.
I'm not much of a talker as it is. So I usually all my ring work do all the talking anyway. But looking at some of the greatest wrestlers, some of them wasn't the best on the mic. Like Bret Hart wasn't the best on the mic, but great technician. Uh, Chris Benoit wasn't the best on the mic. Dynamite Kid wasn't the best on the mic, but put them in the ring, they are crushing it and killing it, and they made a name for themselves. So
Oh, for sure, for
I'm
sure.
more of
Yeah,
that guy myself. I'm not the best with a mic. You put a mic in my hand, sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm eh. So
yeah, yeah. You know, I've I've mentioned this in some other streams that I've done, but you know, I'm not ashamed to say that I am to this day still a huge Chris Benoit fan. You know,
I am too.
I can separate the man's body of work from the man
The
himself
tragedy.
and how he ended up. You
Yes,
know,
that's how I do it.
I can still enjoy and appreciate a Chris Benoit match, and you know, again, like I said, it's all about separating the work and the impact the guy had on the business from the unfortunate decisions he made
Yeah.
and how things ended up with him.
Same way with
But
Dynamite Kid.
yeah, yeah, but
I'm a big Benoit guy,
uh,
so
same here. I mean, Chris Benoit is probably in my top three
same,
of all
same,
time.
same.
I think the guy was just otherworldly in the ring.
He looked good, but he made others look good, and that's the key aspect of to everything. Is like still try to make yourself look good, but make sure your opponent looks good. Because you don't look good if your opponent don't look good, and he's done a great job. And I think that's what helped him. That he made sure whoever he's working looked like a star along with him. So I'm a big Benoit guy. I study a lot of his work for my own matches, for my own move sets and stuff like that. I steal a little bit from him, but it's wrestling. You can't
Yeah,
make your own thing all the time, so you got to steal some stuff. I steal a lot from Benoit, and some people catch on to it. I was like, "This guy's a Benoit guy," and I was like, "Yes, I am." But I separate from what happened to what he is
yeah,
as a wrestler. So that's the only
absolutely.
thing.
Yep. So, what has been your most unusual encounter with a fan?
Uh, we had one fan in Royston, Georgia. They get a little obsessive, and some of those guys, if they work in Royston, if they're watching now, they could vouch. They get a little too close. They will sit and wait until you walk out, or they will find you on social media and hit you up. Um, I've had several from the area that will just randomly just hit me up probably 3 o'clock in the morning, want to hang out. They'll offer me money just to come hang out, and I think that was so weird. I think it was the weirdest thing to me.
That is
Yeah,
a little
it's weird.
strange.
And I'll look at the message and I don't know how to reply back because I don't want to be like a douche to them.
Right, right. So, and I know that this type of thing happens more than any of us realize. But can you share an example of a time where something went completely sideways during a match and you had to completely improvise?
Um, so with one of the favorite matches with Luca was in Gainesville. The plan was for us to wrestle Baby Baby, and my music plays. They cheer for me. Luca's music played. They booed him. And luckily, he did WrestleMania a couple weeks before, if not longer, to do the help with the entrance of Dominic Mysterio. And luckily, he
Hmm.
came through there and started running his mouth, talking about how he was at WrestleMania, and everything that we planned in the back, we had to restructure during the match. And I think that's why it was one of my favorite matches because that curveball was thrown at us, but still made it work. Where they hated him so much and they loved me, but that was the moment where things went south was where his music played, they booed him. I'm over like, oh crap, we had all this planned. Now what are we gonna do? And luckily he comes out talking trash, and we improvised and just went from there.
Gotcha. So this next question actually really fits in kind of perfect because you said that you essentially got started late 2020, which
Yes.
is right when the world was kind of going crazy. So
Yes.
uh, so
Still
tell
crazy.
me. Oh, for sure, for sure. But so tell me about the impact the pandemic had on the early portion of your career.
So I started training right before everything shut down. I probably did maybe a month's worth of training.
Hmm.
Everything shut down. We did not train for about 3 to 4 months. Finally, go back to training, and then a lot of wrestling shows were held outside just to avoid any kind of issue with COVID. So my first year was a lot of outside shows, and very few inside shows. And we did inside shows. We could only have so many people in there, and
Right,
that included
right,
talent and staff.
right.
But
So we talked about Benoit, for instance, but aside from Chris Benoit, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who would you say are some of your other influences?
Sting is one. Jeff Hardy, John Cena. I like to try to show off that I have a lot of strength like John Cena does. Um, I say Eddie Guerrero is another one I kind of copy from, and a little bit from Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega and some Ricochet. I've tried throwing a little bit of modern wrestling stuff into my style, just because I've worked from everybody that works like those guys, so I try to keep up with them, and like work with old school guys and try to element a little bit of everything into my style. But I say I'm a more of a technician. Owen Hart was more of the guy that I copy off of, and again Benoit. Sadly,
Yeah,
keep on going back to Benoit.
nothing wrong with that, man. But so speed round,
All right,
Ilya Dragunov.
small but fierce. I'll say I
Yeah,
enjoy his matches. I enjoy them.
I do too. And I hate the fact that he blew his ACL. I mean,
Yes, but
because
he works with no knee
that's a long
pads.
road back.
He works with no knee pads, which is crazy. When I first started training, I was training a lot with no knee pads. And after like 3 months of training with no knee pads, I was like, oh, I need knee pads. So I don't know how he works a match with no knee pads. So I catch
Well,
guys with
yeah,
no knee pads, no knee covering. I was like, I don't know how you do it. I'm over here hurting myself just watching y'all walk through there, do all the stuff y'all do. So getting that messed up ACL, that happens. So
yeah,
knee injuries are very common in this business.
mm-hmm,
I
for
know,
sure.
Jamie Holmes had knee surgery not long ago, like a year ago. He had knee surgery, and about the tail end of this of 2024, he made his return. Luca Daniels messed up his knee in about July, August of 2024. I think he's about to make his return. So knee, and sometimes you recover quick. It just really depends on you. I've seen guys and they come back within 8 to 9 months. So
Yeah,
it really depends on how hard you
yep,
work on that therapy.
for sure, for sure. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you can have watched it a million times and it just never gets old, and there's always some new little nugget you can pull from
Uh,
it.
WrestleMania 14, Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels, and WrestleMania of 2001 between The Rock and Steve Austin. I'm a big Steve Austin fan as well, but it's a person that you can relate to. A beer drinker that hates his boss.
Yeah, Yep, yep, yep. So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent? Who would Chris Del Rey love to work?
RVD or Owen Hart. Um, RVD is a little technical, but more of a high flyer and very fast. Owen Hart's a very technical guy. Those would be my two dream matches.
Gotcha. So, what is your favorite move? What is something you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do, or at least you would rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
Uh, my favorite move that I do is my finishing move. Is called the Viva Del Rey. It's like a stalling power bomb. I love doing that just
Hmm.
to know that I'm able. There's the power of strength that I'm able to pop them up in such an awkward position. That's something I enjoy hitting a lot. A move that I'm not too keen of taking a lot. I don't really have a weird thing I wouldn't take. I'm really down to take any kind of move or do any kind of move. I'm very open minded, and sometimes I got to be talked out of doing certain things. I've tried to talk people give me Christian's finisher off ladders, and I've taken turnbuckle bumps. I'm pretty down to do a lot of stuff. Uh, The only time I've been a little with a move is I wasn't taking the move, but I was supposed to roll out, and I'm supposed to roll out. But the guy was going to do a shooting star press, which was this previous Saturday. That's the only time I was like, I don't know if you should do that because the ceiling was low, and I was like, oh, dude, don't do it. But now I know how people feel with me because I talk a lot of people and like, let me do this. It's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. So now I know how it feels being in the other, point of view of like that guy shouldn't do that. I almost try to talk him out of it.
Gotcha. Speed round. Dalton Castle.
All right. Mm. It was great in the original Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
This Ring of Honor now
Mm-mm.
kind of watered him down, or just I don't desaturated him or something.
Yeah. Um, Unfortunately, this current iteration of Ring of Honor just yeah,
It reminds me of the WWE version of
yeah,
ECW.
very much.
That's all it
It's
is.
just not the same, you know.
Um,
And
but the original Ring of Honor, he was
oh,
great. He was
oh,
entertaining.
absolutely, yeah,
He got the heat that he needed, though. So, but right now, just they'll find something with him. I think they got so much going on, so many talent that they're trying to do with, and now they're in a kind of stuck situation.
gotcha,
Hopefully, in a couple of years or something, they'll find something to do. They're still a brand new company that they're trying to work things out.
yeah. So you've been doing this long enough that I'm sure this applies. But what hurts right now?
More my knees and my shoulders. Um, but the thing is, I don't have a lot of moments where I land on my knees or my shoulders. I think it's just the picking up and carrying things, and because like sometimes I help set up and tear down rings, and so I think that catches up to me on top of doing a match. But most of my injuries I've ever had was I've had more concussions and head injuries than I ever had anything to my knees, my legs, anything.
Hmm,
But my knees and my shoulders is just shot most of the time.
gotcha.
So leg day sucks for me at the gym.
No doubt.
My least favorite
No
day.
doubt. Well, what is the most significant injury that you've suffered either wrestling or training?
Mostly I've had in the last 4 years as the hospital has said in my records, I've had almost seven concussions in the last 4 years.
Oh, wow.
I've had a lot of head trauma. Some of it's my fault, and some of it's just wrong, just timing. You know, some of it's just misplacement of myself or just timing of stuff, and sometimes it's just the last concussion I got wasn't even because of the match. I was walking out of the match, and the place I was at, they had flyers on the floor, and I slipped on the floor on the flyer on the floor, and fell, bumped my head on the concrete, and I got a concussion from that.
Wow. Wow.
And I've worked what three weeks like that. I worked my shoot job and did wrestling shows for about 3 weeks like that, and it was miserable.
No doubt, no doubt. So, I know that the bigger companies, have very, very strict, very significant concussion protocols that the talent have to go through to be to be
Yeah.
cleared to return to the ring. I'm actually curious. Do a lot of the smaller companies have concussion protocols, or how does that work?
Uh, it's really on yourself. It's really 100% on yourself. Uh, we've there's been some instances if they've heard about you being injured from another show, another promotion, they'll find a way to replace you or something like that. I'm real bad about lying about that I'm okay because I don't want to lose my spot.
Right.
So I will work through it just so I don't lose my spot. But the concussion protocols are not. I don't think it's as strict. It's more of on yourself. If you that's your thing kind of deal. Same way with any other injuries, it's kind of a your thing kind of deal. You just kind of handle it yourself, or just get it looked at. So concussions and stuff, that's all basically on you.
Gotcha. So, in general, what are your thoughts on the current state of the business?
I think it's great. It's growing. It's gaining back the popularity that it had when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I got to middle school, high school, you was a loser if you liked wrestling,
Yep.
but all the way up until about my fifth grade year, you was a cool kid. You went on Monday, you went on Monday, you saw what John Cena and Jeff Hardy did on Sunday. I'm like, yeah, and so it's gaining back that popularity, which is a good thing. And with it being anywhere and everywhere, it's available to people that can't afford WWE tickets. You can go to a $10 show 20 minutes that way or 20 minutes that way. So with wrestling growing and getting popular again, I think it's great. There's
Gotcha.
business for everybody. For wrestlers, it's great for fans. That I think is just awesome right now.
Gotcha. And what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool for wrestling?
It helps out. It helps out a lot with ticket sales nowadays. I, like with this generation, you have to use social media to promote yourself and to promote your shows, promote really anything. It helps out with anything like that. So with social media, it makes a big impact with everything.
Absolutely. So, you're still comparatively a pretty young guy,
Yeah, I'm
but knowing
26.
But knowing everything that you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Probably get in the business a little bit earlier. Try to get in a little bit earlier. I waited a little late, but still nothing wrong with it. I'm still having fun with it. I'm happy, as younger I was, I wanted to make it do to be, but now I'm just happy just getting a ring on the weekends to entertain whoever's there, entertain people at home. That's but get in it sooner than later. I feel like
Mhm.
1920 was still too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Like there's kids
So
that came in that was 16, 17 that was training and they're amazing. So
oh, for sure, for sure. And, you know, it's kind of similar with the progression and evolution of mixed martial arts.
Yes.
There are kids now that they've never grown up in a world without MMA, without the UFC, and
Yes.
you've got kids that are training this stuff literally from birth, that are
I have
breaking onto the scene now, and they are just so scary good. I mean,
I have a few cousins that train with mixed martial arts, and they started at a very young age, like 9, 10, 12 years old. They was doing mixed martial arts. So, and they're great. They're immature wrestlers. Immature wrestlers do great in the mixed martial arts world. And they started out with wrestling and moved into mixed martial arts. So mixed martial arts is great for professional wrestlers to a degree, especially if you need a gimmick or need a character. So
yeah,
it helps out. Wrestling and mixed martial arts is about the same thing. Professional wrestling, you kind of want to start at a younger age because there's a lot of psychology with wrestling.
hmm,
It's not
for
just
sure.
hitting moves and learning suplexes and body slams. It's trying to figure out, placement of matches, the crowd, stuff like that. There's a lot that goes into it. So,
Absolutely. So, do you have any pre-show traditions, any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
so my show days. This is every show day almost. I go to the gym, hit the gym, work on pretty. We call them pretty muscles. Your arms, your chest, triceps, and then like your pretty muscles, so they look good. And then go home. I put on my self tanner. Get to the show. I hit. If the ring's set up before I get there, or I'll help set up the ring. Get in the ring, hit the ropes, try some moves, practice some stuff, and then before the show starts, I might just sit in the corner and just sit there and just think about my match and wait until my music plays, and I'll be bouncing up and down almost like Brock Lesnar does, just preparing for that. Because there's still a little bit of anxiety, even if you've worked in that place several hundred times, you still have that little bit of anxiety, which I like that feeling just a little bit before your music plays. You have that anxiety, and then you go out there, they either boo you or cheer you, and then you kind of simmer down. So that's
Yep.
how most of my show days are, and that's how it always plays out. It's just very anxious until my music plays and I make it through that curtain, and then I'm on cloud nine, and it's just an adrenaline rush from there.
No doubt. And, you know, they say, you know, boo you or cheer you. If they never forget you, you've done your job. So,
Yes,
I mean,
yes. Uh, my favorite part as a heel, which is scary but makes me proud as a heel, is when you have certain fans that try to fist fight you because you cheated to win or just because you've won. That's a big accomplishment on me. Um, my first year as a heel, we was in a group in Tribulation. I was in a group with Tribulation with Jamie Holmes, Machine, and this guy that we trained also. His real name was Brian Snyder, but his ring name was Vincent Only. And we did a thing where we beat up a guy, put him in a casket, and there's a guy with a steel chair on the outside. He wouldn't let us leave the ring because he was trying to fight us with a chair because we put the dude in the casket. And
oh
he's
wow,
obviously had a few beers too much because we was at a brewery. So sometimes
oh
they
no,
forget that it's a show. Uh, Christian shows, like we do some Christian shows. Those shows get a little rowdy too. Some of them you'll be inside of a church, and if you're a heel, they'll be cussing and like, oh man, like this is a church. Don't even be doing
yeah,
that. But my biggest accomplishment is when the fans are trying to fight you. That makes me feel good, but also scares you just a little bit because some people, especially today, are a little crazy and they might wait on
mm-hmm,
you on outside, just waiting on you to get to your car. But great
yep,
accomplishment. If you get that, you did your job.
for
So
sure,
that's an
for
accomplishment
sure.
for me.
Well, something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And last night I had a wrestler from New York City
All
who
right.
wrestles under the name Matt Anarchy.
All right.
And the question that he posed is, in his view, looking at things from kind of an old school perspective. There were two main types of matches back in the day.
Yes.
What he called the Southern style, which was basically wrestling that was pretty much recorded in a studio, and you were wrestling kind of whoever that week, or the Northern style, where you were doing more touring and you were basically wrestling the same opponent night in and night out, in different
Not in,
places
not
on
out.
the tour. So of
Yes.
those two styles, which do you prefer?
The Southern style. Uh, I like to have the, I guess, the discomfort of not knowing who you're working, but that still kind of bugs me a little bit. But just knowing that you're working somebody different and you could try something different with them every time, because that Northern style is nice, but sometimes gets a little repetitive.
Right,
So doing the Southern style is nicer for me, I
right.
believe. I like challenges, so if you give me somebody new, I'm up for the challenge of trying to make a decent match, or at least a banger of a match with somebody new that I've never worked with.
Absolutely. We were talking about it a little bit last night, and he said, the real upside to the Northern style, where you're working the same opponent, night in and night out, is you really can develop a chemistry with that person and really
Yes,
put on some great
yes,
matches. But,
yes,
but like you said, there's only so many variations on a theme. And, so
yes, yes.
yeah.
Uh, Again, like with me and Luca Daniels, I think now when we work, I hope he feels the same way as I do. They feel kind of special because we've done it so many times. Uh, when we do work, people know we've worked each other so many times. They expect the same stuff sometimes, but luckily me and him are able to throw something different at them at every time, or at least try to use the same element that we used in the match before, just to give them like that little. Wrestling fans are smart; they're not stupid like people say they are.
Right.
So if you throw in a little bit of something that y'all done in the past, they appreciate that
Oh, for sure,
sometimes.
for sure.
So luckily, we like me and Luca, we've done that several times where we would do something that we've done before, but the fans catch on to like they did that last time, but this time was just as cooler.
Yep,
So
yep. So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you my next guest is going to be this Saturday at 7 p.m. I've actually got another Atlanta based wrestler, um, Malcolm Marks, who he trains and wrestles with
awesome.
WWA 4.
There's
Yeah,
A4. I've yes, I've worked with a bunch of those guys my starting out
yeah.
years. So
So it doesn't have to be a question particular to him, but is there a question that you would like to pose?
where do these where do y'all see yourself long term? That's the question, is where do they see themselves long term in this business? That would be my question for anybody.
So how would you answer that? What is at this point? What is your end game?
Between, I say 40. It might be 45, but I'm 26. I got 3 kids. At some point, I'm gonna have to slow down and spend more time with them. But then I'm eventually gonna have to stop because they're gonna have kids and they're gonna need a grandpa. So I'm 40, 45. So I'm not too broken down and able to hold my grandkids at some
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
That's my 40, 45. If nothing big
Gotcha.
comes in the way, No big contract or anything comes in the way. 40, 45 is my stopping point.
Got you. So, we're pretty much at the end of things now, Chris. So, do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all
Uh,
that you'd like to give some hype to?
I am booked all for the rest of this month. I got a show this Saturday in Cornelia, Georgia for Old School Wrestling Alliance. I'm doing Soul Survivor. Hopefully, that leads to another title to add to my shoulders. Um, Next week, I'll be in Royston, Georgia for Nerd Jew Championship Wrestling. Me and my fellow tag team partner, Matthew Mercer, we are the Wild Boys. Hopefully, we win and get some tag team gold there for the tag team
Nice.
turmoil. And then January 25th, also me and Matthew Mercer as a tag team will gain some more gold for Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Nice.
Those are big matches because they're all, almost every single one of them's a title match. So I'll like to try to get all of them hyped up here for the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. So you said Cornelia.
Yes,
That's
sir.
Hall County, isn't it?
Uh, I want to say is Habersham County.
Is it? Okay.
Yes, it's like
Well,
right outside of Hall County from Gainesville, going into
gotcha.
Helen, Georgia.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully the weather and everything is going to cooperate, and and
Yes.
and you'll actually be able to
Hopefully,
do the show.
hopefully the snow don't cause too much damage. I'm not worried about the snow. It's the of it melting and then refreezing into ice.
Yeah, the ice. Yeah, the
Hopefully,
ice.
we are
The
able
ice
to
is the bad
continue.
part.
Hopefully, we're able to continue with a Saturday. If we don't, we don't. It's another day I get to spend time with my kids.
Absolutely. So anyway, as far as what we've got coming up, like I said, on Saturday, which is the 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I've got episode 67 coming up, which is, like I said, a WWA 4 guy, Malcolm Marks. And then on Sunday, the 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we've got the premiere of the Wrestling Roundtable. And this is basically going to be a panel discussion show. And we've got kind of a rotating panel of some indie wrestlers, some fans, and other people associated with the business. And basically, it's just kind of an opportunity just to kind of nerd out about wrestling and
Yeah.
talk about the latest shows and what's going on in the business, that kind of thing. So it's
Now,
basically just going to be just kind of a fun freewheeling conversation. And then on Monday the 13th at 7 Eastern Time, I've got episode 68, another WWA 4 guy, Coyote Sandstorm.
sounds like a new
Um,
guy. I haven't seen him before.
yeah, I think he's fairly new, but like you were saying, WWA 4, man, AR Fox is
they've
turning out
uh,
some
they've
some talent.
they've developed some great talent. Alex Kane, everybody knows Alex Kane. Austin Theory,
Hmm.
but they're more. I think Austin Theory was more from the tail end of when Mr. Hughes had WWA 4. The guys
Yeah.
that AR Fox has done, like Teriyaki, Rico Gonzalez, Offside, those guys are great. I've worked with them guys several times, always had a great match, very entertaining. Uh, Kept my cardio up. And there's guys that say that I keep their cardio up. Those guys kept my cardio up. Uh, Hopefully, one day I get to have another match with one of those guys because those guys were great. Those were some of my great opponents I've had from that school.
No doubt. And I get the impression from having talked to a bunch of them that Fox really emphasizes cardio. So I mean,
Yes.
yeah,
A
because
lot of them guys are
those
slim.
mhm. Those guys have seem to have cardio for days. So
Yes.
it's
I'm
which
hard to
is
get blown up, and those guys were blowing me up sometimes.
absolutely. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for your time. This has
And
really
thank you
been a
for having me.
pleasure. And, for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and on, clips on the web, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, continue to spread the word, subscribe, follow, share, like, all that good stuff. Every little bit helps. And, like I said, we'll be back on Saturday evening. And between now and then, everybody take care of yourself. Have a safe night. Love each other and keep throwing down.
And keep warm.